the finals runs, all of that was great. Playoff Jimmy and the great amount of stuff that he added to what we call Heat culture. It was very uplifting. The exodus, woo, it was bad.
Yeah, the peaks were just as tall as the valleys and the troughs were low.
Yeah, and that's the Jimmy Butler experience. It's far from comfortable, but it does end with plenty of wins. Well, Anthony Slater for The Athletic, he covers mostly the Warriors and the NBA. He had an article come out this morning, and it was pretty much a full detail, a sit-down with Jimmy Butler ahead of tomorrow's return to Kaseya Center for the Warriors and Jimmy. And I believe Jimmy was very genuine and honest in this conversation. One of the things he said and pointed out was like he actually hasn't gotten a chance to see his kids who have been living in Miami since before the trade. So he is excited to be coming back, and he's flying separately from the team so he can get back, spend some time with the kids, and Steve Kerr allowed that, which is good. Another thing he kind of pointed out was, I believe, in the 30-minute or so conversation Slater had with Jimmy Butler, not once did he mention Pat Riley's name. 0 times.
That felt like the core conflict was Jimmy Butler versus Pat Riley, even more so than Jimmy Butler versus the Miami Heat as an organization. 2
of the more confrontational figures in modern-day NBA, Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler. We knew that relationship was not going to end in a harmonious way. Here's the quote, though, that everybody's been talking about that kind of hit me sourly as well. Jimmy asked on finding an organization that's now prioritizing winning here, and here it is straight from the article. There was some foundation to it in the sense of work and all that stuff, which is great. And again, this is Jimmy Butler talking about Heat culture. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but I think it was a little bit like overused talking about the, quote, Heat culture. It is a great organization, but I think a large part of the culture is you get guys that buy into a winning mindset. You get some guys to buy in, you get some really good players, and you got the opportunity to talk about Heat culture a little bit more. I'm not saying it to talk down or anything, but I think whenever you have really good players, you can name it whatever you want to name it. That's Jimmy Butler on quote-unquote Heat culture. And honestly, that's what a lot of people that don't believe in what the Heat have built, that's what a lot of people kind of say about it, is they kind of like act like it's just some kind of moniker, some kind of like propaganda that Heat fans and Pat Riley push to make it feel like it's something that's greater than what you get on the court. See, Kat, what have you, because you're not a Heat fan, I am, so I'm obviously looking at it through like rose-colored lenses, but how do you kind of consume what Heat culture is, both from the outside, growing up away from it, and now that you've been in South Florida for a couple of years?
See, that's the problem. I've not only been in South Florida for a couple of years, but I've worked for ESPN West Palm for 3 years. And we know that Evan Cohen has a strong connection to ESPN West Palm, decades-long relationship with ESPN West Palm. So I've heard his explanation of Heat culture so much to where it's just been seeping into my brain, where it is Heat culture is getting the absolute most out of every player, no matter what their job is.
Yeah. That's one of the essential core pieces to it, and also holding every player accountable. That's a large part of Heat culture. Isn't just the fact that you are finding these G League level players, the Drew Smiths of the world, the Max Struses of the world, and you're pairing them with a genius, an evil genius, really, a maniacal man in Eric Spoelstra and that staff, and they are squeezing every bit of juice out of that orange every single time they hit the court. The other part is holding the stars accountable, not allowing them to get passes on certain things. D. Wade helped set the standard for that. When LeBron was here, that was part of the reason why he exited the way he did. He didn't get his privileges that he gets in other places. Chris Bosh was held to a certain standard. Alonzo Mourning had his rifts with the franchise because of that. But that kind of sets the tone. If you ask Greg Popovich today why he had so much success with the Spurs over that 2-decade dynastic run where they won 5 titles, he credits a lot of it to Tim Duncan, not just because he's been a great player, but because he allows Pop to coach him in a way that sets the standard and the floor for the rest of the guys. So part of what Jimmy Butler here is saying is correct. Because, again, going back to his quote in this The Athletic article with Anthony Slater, he says that Heat culture, it's a great organization, but I think a large part of what that culture is you get guys to buy into a winning mindset, and you get some guys to buy in. You get really good players. Here's the emphasis right here. He puts it all on the players. You get really good players, and you get the opportunity to talk about quote-unquote Heat culture. I'm not saying it to talk down, but he feels like it's more about the players than it is the franchise. The only thing I would counter to Jimmy on that is you're giving zero credit now to the organization and the structure that they've set up and the mindset that they have from top down and the sustainability that they've had that has gotten more out of the guys on their roster than what we see those same guys do in other uniforms. Now you're saying it's all about the players when we have seen with our own eyes. Even if you don't believe in Heat culture, what you can admit to me is Hassan Whiteside's best years with the Miami Heat. Tyler Johnson's only good years with the Miami Heat. Drew Smith, if he wasn't in a Heat jersey, you likely wouldn't know the name. Max Strus had a good pop with the Cavs. There's a reason why the Cavaliers traded for a wing at the deadline because, again, it wasn't the field that they thought it would be. The Heat have gotten the most, even when Jimmy had the great runs in other uniforms with the Bulls, with the T-Wolves, with the Sixers, he got the furthest with who?
The Miami Heat.
So how
it was not his physical prime either.
No, it wasn't.
Like he was more athletic before the Heat years.
And that's the thing, too. Jimmy experiencing it for 5.5 years and, again, ending on a sour note, I think if you asked him on some truth serum, he would admit that it is a different feel around that organization. In fact, he talked about it often when he had the Heat jersey on, that it was a different standard and a different level of commitment to winning that they had versus the T-Wolves and the Sixers and the Bulls. What we're hearing from Jimmy Butler in this article, and I'm glad he didn't go so far as to turn me off from him as a person and a player, is just a scorn ex-lover. He's a scorn ex-lover getting ready to kind of reunite with the Heat in what is going to be a contentious environment, and I expect the Heat to be up for that big game tomorrow. I feel like a year or two down the line, maybe post Jimmy's career, when the dust has settled, he'll be more honest about the level of organization that the Heat are and what Heat culture means. But he's just a scorn lover right here, so I won't hold it too much against him. C-Cat, we have a great interview, a great person joining us here on the other side. We have Dan Foster Jr. He is expected to be hearing his name called in the NFL draft, a Palm Beach County native, a Dwyer alum, a Louisville linebacker who I got an opportunity to sit down with. We'll play a snippet of that interview on the other side here, and there's one legendary coach that he credits for a bit of inspiration that has gotten him to this point. I think people in this area are going to love to hear about it, and even our national audience, because I think it's super cool when you get legends, Hall of Famers investing into the youth. You'll hear that and more on the other side, plus a special guest, Dean Thomas. Dean Thomas might be pulling up in a happy hour. This is a crazy Monday.
Does he have the address?
I don't know.
Can he get here?
Somebody dropped a pin for him.